We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck. Let me shoot you. He can't fucking breathe. So let me shoot you. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, you're tuned into the only podcast serving cunt, not afraid to say it with their whole pussy. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast. Today, as like is the case some days, I am flying this bitch solo dolo. So as we kamikaze this motherfucker right into the crowd, first and foremost, we are going to start things off the way we like to, with a little bit of news and recent events. As is the case, sometimes life happens, so I am running this by myself tonight. Luckily, this card and this weekend don't really have a whole lot for us to get excited or get too deep into, so this isn't going to be too long of a show to begin with, top to bottom. That being said, we're going to start off with news and recent events like we always do. Fight announcements, fights cancellations, rumor confirmations, everything relevant to you that has come down the MMA pipeline since we saw you wonderful folks last. So first and foremost, we have got a couple of follow-up stories here. First off, right out at the top, we have got confirmation Ryan Garcia has officially been charged with misdemeanor, not felony, misdemeanor vandalism from the incident last month at the Waldorf Astoria. Initially, when he was arrested for felony vandalism because they estimated the damage to be over $15,000. Now, in retrospect, re-examining the case, they have reevaluated the charges and charged him with misdemeanor vandalism, saying that the total damages are approximately $400, not the initial $15,000. So he is still in trouble. He did still get drunk and fuck up the Waldorf Astoria, which is not a good look either way it goes. And he is still going to have to deal with this, but it may not be quite as bad as the Waldorf Astoria of all places might have led us on to believe. Go figure. That being said, another follow-up from another case that kind of is the reverse of this one. This case was initially tried to be made like it was nothing. Now it is official. John Jones has officially been charged with 2 different misdemeanors, one with misdemeanor assault and battery, one with misdemeanor interference with communications for taking someone's cell phone when they were trying to reach out for help. This was in result from the March incident with the sample collection agents that came to his house, where he posted the video from his Ring camera, which showed the woman reaching out for a knuckle bump. And then John said that this was the incident, and it turned out that that was not actually the video from the incident, that there was no video from that actual incident. Well, there was enough evidence from that incident that now John has 2 charges coming up against him. So we will see how that one plays out going forward as well. Back over into the world of relevant fight news here, we did get an announcement from the PFL, who has had all sorts of shakeups. They have had, I believe, a half dozen total fighters drop out of the playoffs for one reason or another over the past 2 weeks, but they did announce the next round of playoffs all taking place next month, and we've got all 3 of those dates. The first one will be August 2nd, taking place in Nashville, Tennessee. The second card will be August 16th in Hollywood, Florida. And the third and final card will be August 23rd, live from Washington, D.C. Next one we've got to talk about real quick. Kind of interesting news here. There's been a lot of rumors and behind the scenes talk about how much, or I should say, how much longer one championship is going to be around, because of their own released financial statements, they are quite literally hemorrhaging money and have for essentially the duration of their existence as a business. They don't turn a profit. They have never turned a profit, and their losses are getting larger the longer that they run. So there are a lot of rumors that they are in the process of trying to sell out or essentially welcome in some potential foreign business investors, wink, 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 to help try and salvage and turn them profitable. But in the meanwhile, we have seen several of their larger name fighters starting to jump ship, and we got another case of that this week. Former 2-division champion Rainer de Ritter has officially left ONE FC and signed with UAE Warriors, and will be making his debut next weekend, July 27th, on UAE Warriors 51 card. Obviously, with it being a last-minute match coming up against somebody just coming into the organization, I don't anticipate this being a great match. Kind of seems like a highlight reel, hand feeding, if you will. Sacrificial lamb will get thrown to him so he can show why he was worth the investment to UAE Warriors. And then we will see where it goes from there. But kind of interesting to see somebody as big named who has been so praising of ONE FC, or ONE Championship, excuse me, in the past, jumping ship here and heading back to the UAE, where it seems like a lot of the big combat sports money is coming from these days. Cough, cough, sphere, Riyadh season, noche. Excuse me, something in my throat there. Speaking of money getting thrown around, though, the next one I've got to talk about here, it leaves me a little bit conflicted here. On one side, if a guy still got it, give him a chance for a fair matchup to see if he still got it, and if he doesn't, make him retire. But on the other hand, when a guy retires, there's generally a reason for it. If a guy retires and has been retired for a while, it's generally not a good reason if that guy then comes back into the combat sports world. And that's essentially what we got this week. King Mo Malal has officially ended his retirement and signed with BKFC, making his debut September 13th against Dave the Redneck Mundell. I'm a little conflicted here. I'm not going to lie. King Mo has been out of combat sports for a hot minute. He's been coaching. Excuse me. He's been coaching and doing things like that for a hot minute now, to great success from everybody that has anything to say about it. But at the same time, he kind of left the sport because his chin left, not because his power left him. And I don't know if stepping into BKFC is the best way to really dip your toe back into the combat sports water in that situation. Mundell isn't necessarily a world breaker. He hits like a fucking tank if he can connect, but he's not necessarily a world breaker you would really have to be too terribly worried about. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It just, the whole thing just feels a little fucking weird, if we're going to be honest here. We'll see how it plays out. We've still got some time between now and then, but we'll see. Excuse me, my allergies kicking my ass the last couple days. That being said, back over to the UFC side of the house here. Uh, we've waited, we've wondered, we've heard rumors, and now it is official. Cody Garbrandt is officially stepping back into the ring, taking on Miles Johns October 12th at the location TBD card. Despite all of Cody's tough talking, Miles Johns is a long way down the ladder from a guy who held the belt and styled on Dominic Cruz in their fight. I'm not entirely sure how this one's going to play out, because Miles Johns is not a world breaker, but he's another one that, much like Dave Mundell, when he connects, he can fucking hurt anybody, but he can also be hit very easily. And Cody Garbrandt does still have a hard fucking shot, and power's always the last to go, as they say. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out and what the future holds for Cody should he actually not get through this test. We'll see a little closer to October, but interesting to say the least how that one shakes up. Another one here that's very interesting to say the least. For those not following closely, Cyril Gahn has basically taken the last year off since the John Jones fight. He was involved in shooting a movie for, I believe, 8 or 9 months, and then he turned around and shot a TV series for 8 or 9 months or something along those lines. And I believe they overlapped in the middle as well, so relax your math brains. But he basically just finished with all of the post-production and the reshoots for all of that stuff, and came out and said that he was offered the fight against Tom Aspinall at 304, but turned it down because he was shooting the movie, and then was offered the fight against Aspinall for 306, or not, excuse me, not 306, 307. And that Tom Aspinall turned it down. And then it looks like now that Tom is higher in the rankings, he's ducking Cyril, even though Tom called for a fight with Cyril when he was lower in the rankings, which no, that's not how that works. Cyril's the one who's taken himself out of the rankings for the last year, essentially, and Tom has the interim belt, so he can essentially have a lot more of a say in what happens to his career going forward than Cyril does right now. That being said, we did get confirmation today that Cyril Gahn has officially booked another match against Alexander Volkanovski, the rematch. They're running it back. This time it's going to be in Abu Dhabi in October 26th for UFC 308. Interesting rematch. Volkov has definitely been on a hell of a fucking run lately, working his way back towards that title shot. Cyril needs a big fucking name, bigger than what else is available out there right now. But I agree, he's not quite ready to try and go back at Tommy Aspinall right now, especially given that whole situation at the top. But we will see how that one plays out as we get a little closer to October. That being said, back over on the one side of things, after 2 years on the sidelines dealing with family situations and all sorts of outside of the cage life things, the champion Christian Lee will officially step back in the ONE FC cage to defend his lightweight championship against Aliberg Rasulov at 169 in Atlanta, November 8th. So not only is he stepping back in the cage after 2 years out, but he's going to defend his belt here in the US of all places on that Amazon Prime card November 8th. So that is very cool on a whole multitude of levels, especially considering his little brother, his youngest brother, just made his debut in spectacular fashion over in one not that long ago. That was a great fucking fight as well. Very cool to see some good luck going to the Lee family. They absolutely fucking deserve it. That being said, you can tell that the UFC loves certain kind of storylines. I won't say it's WWE-esque, but it's very narratively similar in the ones that they try and seek out and encourage and propagate. You saw it very clearly with Israel Adesanya when he made his crossover from kickboxing into MMA and then into the UFC and then his rise to stardom. And as soon as Izzy got to the peak, the UFC went and sought out Alex Pereira, his number one rival from kickboxing, the only man to have ever essentially beaten Izzy definitively like that in kickboxing, Alex Pereira, and then brought him into the fold and fast-tracked him right up the fucking trail to where we see him performing today. Fights unfolding as they have, that aside, you can tell that the UFC loves that narrative or a narrative very similar to that because they brought in multiple different fighters in different situations who fit that same scenario, maybe not exactly to a T, but very close to that scenario here. And now we were literally just pulling the 2024 and sticking the reboot back into the zeitgeist of, fight narratives here. The UFC has officially sought out, I believe he pronounces it Artem Vakitov. I'm not 100% certain. I apologize if I butchered that. But he is essentially the last man to have defeated Alex Pereira in Glory Kickboxing before Alex Pereira made his conversion over to MMA into the UFC and to where he is today. And not only has the UFC sought him out, he's going to be making his debut on Dana White's Contender Series October 8th, just before they go over to Abu Dhabi for that UFC 308 card that I was mentioning about. And if history is anything to be believed, and with the UFC, it generally is, they're going to give this man the easiest layup fight they can on the Contender Series so that he can get himself a highlight finish, sign him immediately to the UFC, and strap the rocket to him and start that fast track so they can essentially try and get him either to Izzy or to Alex Pereira, either way, to keep that rivalry open, because now those two are essentially intertwined forever. So now they're going to bring in Artem and make it a three-way weird fucking tie of kickboxing into MMA conversions here with these gentlemen. But it's going to be interesting to see how they go because, much like Izzy, much like Alex, this guy's not a spring chicken. He's not 23 years old. I believe he's 35 or 36 years old himself. So again, Dana usually, or as he usually does, going back on his word of saying that it's not worth their time to sign guys over 30 because they don't have enough time left in the sport, as he signs 32-year-olds, 34-year-olds, 36-year-olds, and now, again, another 35, 36-year-old here. But Dana White gonna Dana White. What are you gonna do? That being said, excuse me a minute. Just announced an hour and a half ago, excuse me, August 10th, UFC Vegas 95, back to the Apex. Marcin Tybura versus Sergey Spivak 2, another rematch in the making here. Interesting matchup. But last story I've got to talk about real quick here in the news and recent events. Excuse me. We've got a strange situation here with the Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal boxing fallout. There's all sorts of weird stories coming out after that to begin with, but now we've got an actual lawsuit, a $9 million lawsuit against Fan Mio that has been filed. But Nate Diaz himself came out yesterday and said, I ain't suing nobody on Twitter. The lawsuit exists. It's public information. Luke Thomas went over it. Several others have gone over it in detail, top to bottom. The lawsuit exists. It's public information, or public record rather. So the lawsuit is out there. What I'm wondering is that if this is something where there is a problem and the lawsuit does exist, but this is where Real Fight Sports is making the lawsuit against Fan Mio, and Nate Diaz isn't, you know, specifically or personally involved in it because it's all being handled on the business side of things. But it's a little weird to say the very least. But there is a lawsuit against Fan Mio for $9 million and with or an owed I believe they've titled the lawsuit an owed wages or an owed compensation of some form, but it's going to be strange to see how that one shakes loose as we go forward. That being said, excuse me, as you can tell, I am rocking solo dolo this evening, so I will be running all of the segments. So this would be the point where I would remind you that if you do like what we get up to around here, the best way to help out would be patreon.com/I'mNoJoe. For as little as $1 a month, you not only help us get up to what we get up to around here, but you get yourself a thank you with your name scrolling at the end of every single broadcast on this channel to let everyone know how awesome you are, but B, excuse me, and maybe more importantly, unfettered and unrestricted access to the behind the scenes, unaired and sometimes unairable content that happens here on the I'm No Joe channel. Words are live, hard, live sometimes. See? That being said, things much funnier than that, I promise, and things that we cannot put out on the air, things that maybe potentially help get us kick off OnlyFans are there to be seen, but only for folks who help us do what we do around here. That being said, normally this would be the point where I would bring Christian out for the slow cans and contenders to talk about all the interesting things and potential fun on the card for this weekend for the UFC. That being said, Christian's not here, so we're going to do it a little differently. Excuse me. We're going to run down the combat sports menu for the weekend because I keep forgetting those till the end of the goddamn show, and I'm trying not to do that anymore. So we're going to bring that up right here, right now. If you want to watch combat sports this upcoming weekend, the UFC is not the only game in town. They're not even the last game in town. There is plenty to be had this upcoming weekend, starting, as is the case more often than not, bright and early tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for one Friday Fights 71. Again, Muay Thai with 4-ounce gloves, MMA, grappling, not a lot of names the average person's going to know, but fun combat sports and a different rule set than most people are used to with your breakfast first thing tomorrow morning. That being said, bouncing over to Saturday, kicking off bright and early over there, 12 p.m. noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. From over in Slovakia, Octagon 59. This is another one of those European feeder organizations where their top champions and their top performers generally end up in the UFC or in PFL, Bellator, in ONE FC, wherever you want to talk about it. A couple of names that folks may recognize on this card, but not a whole lot. I'm not going to bullshit you there. But again, combat sports with lunch for Saturday. Kicking off just an hour later, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. Excuse me, from over in Poland, just next door, KSW 96. Again, another European feeder organization. Couple of names the hardcores might recognize here. Maria Silva's fighting. But for the most part, a lot of European up-and-coming prospects trying to make the way to the big show. Right after that, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Standard. Again, clashing times here. This one from over in the O2 Arena in London, Cage Warriors 174. There are a couple of names that folks will recognize on this card, but again, another European feeder organization card with a lot of potential fun on it here. That'll bring us to 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time for the kickoff of UFC Vegas 94, Lemos versus Jandaroba. We'll get into that card a little more here in just a minute here. Not the greatest, not the worst, but that being said, the weekend rounds out your combat sports menu with the show, I guess it's not even technically a show. It really is more of a circus down in Tampa, Florida, with Jake Paul versus Mike Perry. I don't even know what to say about that other than it's happening. So there is that. Um, as far as cans and contenders go, uh, not a whole lot to get really excited about. One of my contenders here for this card is Deani Barbosa stepping in on short notice to take on Miranda Maverick, where Tracy Cortez was originally supposed to be before she got her eyelashes beat off of her last weekend by Rose Namajunas. Miranda Maverick has been pretty hit and miss, but still fairly consistent in terms of what she's able to do. The competition has really dictated what she's been able to show us so far. Deani Barbosa has a little bit of hype behind her, but she's also fairly new to the combat sports world, brand new to the UFC. So I'm curious to see what she will be able to do there. Another one, obviously, if you've been following the show for any amount of time, you probably knew this one was coming, but the Korean Superboy himself, Duho Choi, big fucking favorite of the show here, taking on Bill Algeo, who can go fuck himself. I saw him in Kansas City, and he's a douchebag. He can go fuck off. Hoping the Korean Superboy will come out there, kick some ass, and take some names and make us all real fucking happy here. Excited to see how that one plays out. Might not be the most exciting in most people's eyes, but the co-main event, Brad Tavares versus the Iron Turtle, Jun Young Park. Another fan favorite here on the show. The Iron Turtle is just an awesome human being, as well as a really fun fucking fighter. Brad Tavares, excuse me, for his hit and miss of a career as he had, has essentially held himself at the gatekeeper position at 185. He's never really cracked too high into the rankings. He's never really been a title contender, but he's always been one of quote unquote those guys that you have to be able to get around to get into title contention yourself. So interesting to see how the Iron Turtle can fare against him. I do have a Schrodinger's contender for this week as well. Kurt Hollabaugh. He's been here. He's back. He made his way through the Ultimate Fighter. We've seen glimpses of potential, but it's also Kurt Hollabaugh. So we've seen him shit the bed spectacularly before. So I can't get too terribly excited about it. But given what we've seen of him recently, there is reason to keep an eye on him if he has in fact really turned a corner or made a difference in his fight career here and in his game. I'm willing to watch. I'm not going to get excited about it, but I'm willing to pay attention and see what he's got to offer at this point. There are a lot of cans on this card, to say the least. This is a pre-hangover card leading into Manchester next weekend. And this is one of those hangover cards where we like to say the vast majority of these fights are contractual obligations. They're not in any way going to impact any of the divisions they take place in. None of these fights anywhere up and down this card, top to bottom, have title implications attached to them. That's not to say that some of them can't be really exciting and some of them can't be really fun, but there are nothing major in terms of stakes attached to any of these fights, really. That being said, even that low of a bar to set, there are still some that just have no real place on this card. Oh, I apologize. I did miss one fight. I had scrolled past it a little too quick here. There is one more contender fight. Excuse me. One more contender. I shouldn't say contender fight. One more contender that I am excited to watch on this weekend's upcoming card. And that is Kansas City's own Trey Ogden stepping in to take on Loiki Radzabov, I believe is how he pronounces his name. I apologize if I butchered that as well, but always stoked to see Trey Ogden getting back in there, getting a chance to shine and let Marathon MMA and Kansas City MMA do their damn thing. Fairly confident he should be able to take this W, but always fun to watch just the same. That being said, cans. Curtain jerker. Mo Usman versus Thomas Peterson. No, no one needs it. No one needs it. No. Following right up with that, Luana Carolina, full on can versus Lucy Pudilova, full on fucking can. No one needs that fight, period. Brian Kelleher versus Cody Gibson. No, no one needs that fight either. Steve Garcia versus Sungwoo Choi. I was tempted to give a Schrodinger's contender spot to, because both of those gentlemen have shown potential, but just again, inconsistency. It is the career killer here, and they've both got a bad case of it. I don't know. I can't get excited about that fight, but I can't completely dismiss it either, because there's always that inkling of potential. So we'll see how that plays loose. That being said, there's not really a whole lot else on that card that I am too terribly excited about. So that being said, give me a moment to take a drink here real quick. That will bring us to the excuse me, modified version of the only segment on this show that does require its own individual disclaimer. So if you will, Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form support, sponsor, or endorse the I'm No Joe podcast yet. That being said, Tapology does offer the option to go onto their website, create a free account, and make fantasy style MMA picks like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups on there. So we did. We made one called I'm No Bookie. It's all one word, or you can search group 965, however you need to look for it. The group is open to the public. You are welcome and encouraged to make yourself an account, join the group, and let us know who you are so we can hold your picks accountable with our picks in a little segment that tonight gets called Tapology with Meter. Thank you, Peter. You're welcome. That being said, as is usually the case, this is generally golf tee segment here. So we will run down. We will live words hard sometimes. We will run down really quickly results from last week's picks before we get into this week's numbers, and then some quick little rundown of the odds before we get on out of here. So, unfortunately, a little too late to have an impact in the Grand Prix, but as has been the case quite frequently in the regular week-to-week competitions here over on Tapology in the I'm No Bookie group, Donna has come out of the woodwork to just claim that first place spot with an iron fucking grasp. Vindog the Booty Hog was just, as Maxwell Smart would say, missed it by that much. Just 10 points down. Donna wins 8 of 12 correct, 3 decisions, 1 perfect. Bindog the Booty Hog right behind her with 515. Also 8 of 12 correct, but 2 decisions, 1 perfect, 1 semi-perfect, and that 1 semi-perfect was enough to give the 10-point difference and let Donna just pull right over the edge to get right past. And Slowbake right there behind Vindog the Booty Hog. Don right there behind Slowbake. Golfy and I were struggling back and forth for a hot minute there down at the very bottom to see who was going to end up pulling it out. And at the end of the day, as you can tell by the screen itself, for those of you watching live and for those of you just listening, decided to get out the old baseball cleats, throw down the meat, and just have myself a tenderizing walk on my own dick this last weekend. Had a fairly rough couple of weeks in terms of picks myself. As is the case, we call out the good, the bad, and the otherwise, no matter if we are the ones who did the good or the bad. I just happened to pancake my own dick and then Belgian waffle that motherfucker for good measure this weekend. I ended the total with 4 of 12 correct, but I did have 1 decision of those 4 as well. So there is that to be had. That being said, excuse me, join the group. It's fun stuff. Make your picks. Let us know who the fuck you are. We will hold your picks accountable, because this coming up weekend, we have got interesting odds. As you could probably expect by what I have mentioned previously about this card, they are not drastic or scary. Let me see. I believe the biggest difference on the card here, it's pretty much a coin flip on almost every fight, like you would expect on matchups like this, including the main event, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. Yonderoba as the favorite, minus 130 versus Limosh, the underdog at plus 110. I would have figured that, excuse me, I would have figured those odds would be backwards and then stretched a little further, with Limosh being a clear favorite over Yonderoba, even with the work that she's done recently. But Vegas seems to think a little differently than that. Iron Turtle, minus 162 favorite over the plus 136 Tavares, as you would kind of expect. The biggest odds on the card here, I believe, biggest odds on the card. The fight that I talked about earlier, Miranda Maverick versus Diane Barbosa, the replacement short notice fight. Miranda Maverick, minus 225 favorite versus Barbosa as a plus 185 underdog coming in last minute. It's kind of to be expected, but I'm not mad at those odds. I think there's a good possibility that Barbosa could show up as the newbie and make a big splash and surprise everybody, but there's equally as fair of an opportunity for Miranda Maverick, who has been in camp this whole time, to just show up and be ready to do work against a newbie who gets that bright light of the debut in their eye and, has a little bit of a stumble. Who knows? That being said, there are no odds on this card anywhere top to bottom greater than a 200 plus 200 minus 200 or plus 200 versus minus 100. There are no odds in the 300 or above range on either positive or negative on any fight on this card top to bottom. So even Vegas does not have a lot of faith in anyone on this card anywhere top to bottom across the board. That being said, I gave you the rundown. There is fun stuff to be had, not a lot, but that is what we have got for this particular episode. So that being said, when we wrap things up around here, that is not necessarily the end of the fun, because tomorrow morning and pretty much every Friday morning oh wait, I can't point to him because he didn't make it tonight. I'm just fucking with you. Life happens. Tomorrow morning and pretty much every Friday morning, Slow Bake and his hetero life mate Vindog the Booty Hog will release their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over there on Spreaker.com. The links to that, as well as all of their social media and their channel over on the I'm No Joe Discord server, all down below. Go tell them how awesome they are and how they got to get their shit together. John Jones, I'm waiting for you. That being said, though, when the week comes back around, one of these Wednesdays, it's going to happen. I know it. It's not this Wednesday, but maybe the next Wednesday. One of these Wednesdays, it's going to be back. The Foggy Fairway, Golf Tee's very own Wednesday night show, comes on usually 9:30-ish, somewhere around the time that this one does, but on a Wednesday. You know how that works. Nix and E-Liquid talking advocacy, shooting the shit, just having a good hangout time. It's not on at the moment. There is life happening, so there is a current break at the moment, but there again is more than enough over there to be had. Go back, watch a couple episodes, check out some of the Saturday shows we did over there. It's a good time. There's more than enough to enjoy over there. Links to that, as well as his social media, all again down below. Go tell him he's awesome to get his shit together as well. That being said, comes back around to moi. I go by the name The Meter as an abbreviated form of The Meter Does Many Things, because I literally constantly have a million different things going on. I'm actively broadcasting to you right now. I've got cameras that I'm watching over here from my house. I've got social media that I'm monitoring over here on my phone over here. I literally have multiple things going at any given point in time. That includes the I'm No Joe podcast here as well, obviously. But if you are interested in any of the many things that I do get up to, there are two links down below that can take you to the menagerie of fuckery that I keep myself acquired with. One of them is Linktree/The Meter Does Many Things for the broad scope of all the fuckery that I get up to. The other one is Linktree/I'm No Joe for everything pertaining to combat sports and the I'm No Joe podcast, our Twitch stream that we use once in a while, some of the videos, all of our links to our socials, all the fun stuff can all be had through there. Click through it, check it out. There's something you'll find that you can enjoy, I promise you. That being said, that is all we have got for this particular episode. So if you did enjoy what we get up to around here, please make sure you have a thumbs up on, notifications turned on, you are subscribed to whatever platform you are picking this up on, because we do this pretty much every Thursday before there are big fights to watch live over on youtube.com/at I'm No Joe, 9:30-ish Central Standard Time, because sometimes life happens. That being said, if you are unable to or unwilling to catch it live, I understand I own mirrors as well. Fret not. The week after we go live, the all audio version of the podcast drops over on anchor.fm/I'm No Joe. You can pick it up in your podcast consumption platform of choice: Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. It's everywhere in the all audio version. It's just a week later. So there is that as well. If you want to help out what we get up to around here, again, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. For as little as $1 a month, you get your name on the end as well, and it helps us do what we do. That being said, if you did not enjoy what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast that you didn't like? Give it a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That said, that's all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, even if it is ignorant.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made